Wednesday, January 20th, 2021, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So finally, it's January 20th. Finally is Inauguration Day for the President of the United States of America. Yes, everyone's been waiting for this day. It's been very frustrating, especially with what's been happening after November 3rd. And despite that, though, I want to talk about the Federal Reserve today and why it's the biggest and most lethal swamp creature, not only in DC, but throughout the United States and throughout the world. Before I look into the Federal Reserve, though, I like to go back in history almost 200 years ago to the 1824 United States presidential election. It was called the corrupt bargain. And I know there's a lot of people out there feeling hard done by with the 2020 election, and the process and all the division has been bad, of course. But in 1824, it was just as bad. And Andrew Jackson was really hard done by. He won the popular votes, but he didn't get enough electoral college votes because there were 4 candidates, and then he ended up losing on a vote in Congress. The states voted, each state had a vote, and he lost to John Quincy Adams. So this is not the first time, and it will probably not be the last time where there is some kind of dispute in terms of the election. So, for example, he got 99 electoral votes. John Quincy Adams got 74. He also got the most popular votes. He got 151,000 popular votes. John Quincy Adams got 113,000, and he still lost the election. Of course, he went on to win the election in 1828. He went on to let the charter of the Second Bank of the United States expire in 1837. So he went on to do a lot of great things. I did watch President Trump's farewell address yesterday. It was a good address. But the other thing I would say to people is that if politicians are that important to you, then there's something wrong. I think the lesson is that you need to be as self-sufficient as possible. Yes, you have to be in the system, unfortunately, unless you want to become a hermit. But you have to try to make yourself and your family self-reliant, not only financially, but mentally, and not have to depend on the government for your livelihood. That's the philosophy I've always taken. The other thing I would say about presidents, and now I'm going to go into another country. Look at Switzerland, where I lived for about 5 years, back in the late 80s, early 90s. I remember back then, very few people knew who the president of Switzerland was. And why is that? Well, because it's not, or it wasn't at the time. Unfortunately, I think it's changed. It wasn't as important. The important part of politics in Switzerland used to be the regional, the cantons, or even the small communities in Switzerland, very decentralized. So the Swiss president, people didn't even know who the president was, and the president only holds power there for a year. So I think that's the way we need to move towards, not only in America, but all around the world. We need to make these leaders less important. So that's my message. Small government, self-reliance. But anyway, what about the Federal Reserve? Wasn't it M. Schonemeyer Rothschild who said, "Give me control of a country's money supply, and I care not who makes the laws"? So I didn't see on January 6th, and I'm not trying to say that I agreed with what happened, some of the unfortunate events on January 6th, but I didn't see none of the protesters or the demonstrators on January 6th going up to the Mariner Eccles building. What's the Mariner Eccles building? Well, that's the Federal Reserve headquarters in Washington, D.C. I would have been a lot happier to see that, people protesting at the Federal Reserve, not only in D.C. but all the regional banks, the New York Fed, the Dallas Fed, and so on. I got a message from one of my viewers the other day, and he said, well, no one talks about the Fed, and that's the problem. And I agree. It's something that's not brought up. The only politicians that really ever bring it up are Ron Paul and maybe his son, Rand Paul. Even Rand Paul isn't really focusing that much on the Fed, but Ron Paul does. So that's what I would say. We need to focus on central banks, not only the Federal Reserve in the US, but the Federal Reserve is really important, because if the power of the Federal Reserve disappears, or if the Federal Reserve Act is abolished, that will be the beginning of the end for all world central banks, in my opinion. So yeah, the Federal Reserve, that's the most lethal, really, creature in the swamp. It's like the big alligator. Even President Trump worked with the alligator, because it's a swamp creature that will destroy other swamp creatures, all other swamp creatures, basically. So it's a very lethal swamp creature. So that's, I think, the focus that we need to have. That's why I always talk about central banking, because I think central banking is, it's a central planning bureaucracy controlled by the bankers and government. It's a marriage between bankers and government, and that's not good for freedom. And even Howard Buffett, congressman from Nebraska, said so in 1948. He wrote an essay, or he made a speech entitled "Human Freedom Rests on Gold Redeemable Money." So what's the Fed got to do with that? Well, the Federal Reserve was the swamp creature that in 1933 helped the government confiscate all of Americans' private gold holdings. You were forced to hand in your gold to your local Federal Reserve branch. So the Federal Reserve knows that gold is important. Without gold redeemable money, like Howard Buffett says, there is no human freedom. And I think that's more important than anything else. And that's why I said it would have been nice to see the protesters actually at the Mariner Eccles building instead of the Capitol on January 6th, but we didn't see that, of course. There's so much distraction politically, and unfortunately I think that's going to continue, and that's why I'm going to keep going on about the Federal Reserve and other central banks, and that's why I'm the home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Until that happens, I'm going to be a contrarian. The day that people wake up to the evils of central banking, that's when probably this channel won't be around anymore, or maybe we'll be covering another subject that people need to wake up to. But so there you go. Recommend you read that article or speech, whatever it was, by Howard Buffett. By the way, he was Warren Buffett's father, and I'm going to put that a link to that article below in the description so you can read it. So before we look at the markets, just wanted to recommend another book. And this one I read many years ago, and I think I'm going to read it again, because sometimes it's good to reread books. And it's Andrew Jackson, His Life and Times by H.W. Brands. I highly recommend it. So there you go, Andrew Jackson. H.W. Brands, that's the author. So it's 8:25 a.m. London. We've got spot gold at 1854.60. So gold is actually up $14, which is encouraging. The last few days, trading days that is, gold has been languishing, not really moving anywhere. It looks like it's trying to break out here, but still, how can I say, early days. We saw yesterday that Janet Yellen was confirmed, no problem. And that's another indication of how things are going to be, I think, fiscally. The fact that she was like almost rubber stamped as Secretary of the Treasury. Very little, I guess, debate. They didn't mention all the millions that she's earned for just giving speeches to big corporations and banks. Anyway, and I think she said that now is not the time to be frugal or to raise taxes or cut spending. So when is it going to be the time, Janet? Anyway, the high has been 1857, the low 1838. So we're up about 0.75%. Silver did well yesterday early on, and as I said, expected to come down as the U.S. comes in, and it happened exactly. Some of you might ask, why don't you just trade? Because you know that's going to happen. Well, I don't want to be part of the problem because it's all in the paper market that happens. I just watch. I don't really. Trading is something that you need to be 24/7 looking at the markets. Why 24/7? Well, because the markets trade almost 24/7 now, and I think it's a full-time job. Silver, 25.50 right now, up 30 cents or 1.2%. High has been 25.58, low 25.18. The Dow future is down 3 points. S&P is up 7. NASDAQ 100 futures up 80. Foreign exchange, we've got the pound up 1/3%, 136.70. The euro is up 1/8%, 121.43. The dollar's down 1/8% versus the yen, 103.76. And not surprisingly, the dollar's dropped back from 6.50, which I said was going to be a resistance now. We're now down 0.2 and we're at 646.70. High-grade copper is up 0.75%. And WTI crude is up 1.1%. And to finish off, the 10-year yield is at 1.1%, unchanged. And yeah, I saw a headline yesterday on Zero Hedge that the Chinese started buying treasuries again in November. And I thought about all the talk of the election that the Chinese supposedly interfered. And I don't want to get into that, but if they really wanted Biden to win, and think about the timing, November, Biden won on November 3rd. And lo and behold, the Chinese start buying treasuries again. Just a thought. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Facebook, DTube, Hive, BitChute, and Library. Hopefully, Parler will be back up and running soon, but as of now, it isn't. So I wish you all a great inauguration day in the States, and for everyone else around the world, just a great day nevertheless. Take care. Bye.